Hi, happy full moon. So for today's tracking, we're going to think about using the moon and the lunar cycle to track. This can be really, really helpful when you are postnatal, when you are breastfeeding, when you are on hormonal contraceptives, when you are menopausal, or perimenopausal and your own menstrual cycle is not following a regular rhythm. It will be also really helpful at menarche as well, so when you're first starting your bleed, to track against the moon. So there's kind of two really amazing gifts that the lunar cycle gives us in terms of tracking. I hesitated then because there's probably about 200, but the two main ones that I'm going to think about right now. So the first one kind of relates to what I've just been saying. If you don't have a steady cycle that you feel that you can rely on, but you want to explore movement through the inner seasons and change over time, and how your body, your emotions, your energy changes over time, then you're going to want to think about tracking with the moon cycle and using that. And it can be so grounding and also give you space to change week by week. Just like you would if you were following your menstrual cycle. The reason that I talk about, even though we might have a menstrual cycle, times like perimenopause and menarche being an amazing time to use the lunar cycle, is that it's got this 28-day pattern, like it doesn't shift and change, so you can rely on kind of knowing that the full moon is going to come, and then 2 weeks later the new moon is going to come. And at times when your cycle feels all over the place, that can feel really helpful and really grounding. And then the other reason that I love to use the lunar cycle for tracking is because it gives us one of these additional layers of self-understanding and self-connection. So when I spoke about the inner seasons in a couple of days ago in that tracking video, I was talking about how there are many cycles that are happening, and we kind of have these layers. And I tracked for myself that I am in inner autumn, moving into the autumn of my life during the autumn time of the year, and it was like the kind of early summer of the cycle. So all those different cycles have an impact. And over time, when we track our menstrual cycle with the moon cycle, we get very specific and quite clear messages. Because what happens is our menstrual cycle moves. So we don't have a 28-day cycle every single month. And so sometimes we're bleeding with the new moon, sometimes we're bleeding with the full moon, sometimes we're in between, and we can start to, over time, like I'm talking a few years usually, but we can start to glean some real insights there, and some real self-acceptance and deep trust in our body that she knows what she's doing. Often women that I work with will realise that they, I'm having an unusually long cycle, I don't know why, and they've basically waited to bleed with the full moon, or they've been bleeding with the new moon, so they kind of waited 3 days or something, and then they get a big realisation, or something in their life needs to shift. And so it's all connected in that way. So this is my highly unartistic moon cycle right now that I've already tracked. So I've got today's date, so if you want to write today's date and the cycle day that you're on, if you have a cycle day, and also it's a full moon, so you could write the full moon plus 1. So we're kind of 1 day after the full moon, which was yesterday, if we're relying on the lunar cycle. So you could pause the video and draw yourself a 28-day sphere if you like. But I wanted to show you, so I've referred to this book before, I think. This is Lucy H. Pearce's Full Circle Health. She has a book and she has a journal, but actually the book has a lot of space in it anyway. And she actually has a pre-drawn cycle chart and then some more that you can add to. So I thought I'd share that with you in case you don't want to have to go through this all the time. You can see mine's way wonkier than hers, and you don't get like the same amount of space in every gap doing it this way. So this kind of relates a little bit to what I'm going to talk about upcoming, about tracking over the month. If you feel like daily tracking is just like unrealistic for you, or even like every 2 to 3 days, or if you've given it a go and you're just not sticking to it, then have a go for 3 months at doing monthly tracking. So spending maybe like half an hour, 45 minutes once a month, doing some really in-depth tracking. You can get out your calendar, you can kind of look back through your camera roll, kind of think about what's been going on, how did I feel that day, and you'll probably remember quite a lot of detail. And we don't need tons to create a pattern of how we're changing with the lunar cycle. So I've already done some of mine, and to give you a few ideas, sometimes I use different colours on a map like this, a cycle map like this, because it's just easier to see. So a few things that I was tracking, I've noted the day of the new moon. So on the outside of the circle, the numbers are 1 to 28, so that's the lunar cycle. And so I've just started one here, and so we're at the full moon plus 1 here on day 15. And then inside that, I've written my cycle days. So I actually went backwards because I knew what day I was on today, and then I went backwards. So if I was to have a 28-day cycle, then that would mean I'm going to be bleeding full moon plus 4 days. So I found I'm transitioning back towards bleeding with the full moon, and I have been bleeding with the new moon for a few months now. I'd have to look at my journal, but maybe as many as 6 months, which is, I find, more restful. So tradition says, and this plays out in my experience working with women, that bleeding with the full moon is a call to start to share your gifts a little bit more, to start to emerge, to be more open with who you are, to communicate more widely, whereas bleeding with the new moon is more about being more inward, pouring your energy back in, focusing on yourself. And so this month, as I'm shifting, for me, I'm kind of in the middle of that. So I'm really waning, like energy-wise, capacity-wise for other people, that kind of thing right now. Cycle day 25, I'm really definitely starting to feel like, okay, yes, I want to move my body, but I'd rather like not talk to people too much. I would like as many naps as possible, some massage ideally, kind of roll around on the floor a bit. Definitely eat more. I would like somebody else to do the hoovering, but I really, really want it to be done. So that's kind of my cycle day feelings today. And yet the moon is at her fullest. It's really bright right now, and she's kind of up all night. So for me, it feels a little bit off. And I feel really I can care for myself this time of the cycle, but at the start of the cycle this time, I found it quite difficult. And I actually had a lot of anxiety and overthinking happening for me this month. So I have noted that down, anxious days. I'm going to keep an eye on that and notice, like, is it the interaction with the lunar energies and my menstrual cycle? What could I do to care for that excess thinking early on in my cycle that I often don't get? I've also noted down libido, because that was something I wanted to track, because I feel like that's been different for me this month. I had quite bad insomnia near the start of my cycle, again, like in a spring, and that's not totally unusual, but a fairly unusual time for me to have insomnia, and that was also just after the new moon. So yeah, that felt difficult, so I've noted that down. And the other thing I'll probably note down is so over the summertime I was struggling with a slow digestion, and I was starting to notice some patterns through the month, and so that's something that I'll probably track like on my monthly moon map, so then I can see, like, are there any correlations? So I'm starting to see correlations through the times of my cycle, but are there any other correlations? So things like mood are really, really great to track on your lunar map. And things like bigger bodily changes, so libido is a good one. Although obviously you would expect that to wax and wane if you have a menstrual cycle, it's going to wax and wane no matter what else, and obviously depending on what else is going on in your life. Other things you might want to track is like, how much do I want to like clear out in my house, tidy up my house, do some nesting, or how much do I like not really care? How much do I want to be like moving my body? or how much do I want to be still and napping a lot. And then the final one would be to do with work, like how motivated and passionate do I feel about sharing my work, whether that's like paid work or whether that's, you know, like your dedication to making beautiful meals in the house or redecorating the house, whatever it is that you feel passionate about in this season of your life. So have a go yourself. I would love to see a photo of your moon map, or kind of coloured in or shaded in. Remember, if you're kind of stuck or this isn't dropping in for you, then you can just email me back this week and I'll have a chat to you about what might help.